People always say parking wars are petty until you come home at 11:47 p.m., rain chewing the pavement like static, and find a lifted silver Tacoma lounging in your numbered spot like a cat in your sunbeam. My number, 17, was painted on the concrete in a lazy stencil, the kind of detail you ignore until someone decides it doesn't apply to them. That someone was Trent, new neighbor, expensive jawline, a laugh that sounded like he bought it on sale. He'd moved in 3 weeks earlier and immediately discovered that rules are more like opinions if you say them confidently enough. At first, I tried being civil. A note tucked under his wiper the first night. "Hey, this spot's assigned. Number 17. Thanks." The next morning, the note was gone, replaced by tire tracks and a faint impression of mud where my Corolla should have been. Second night, I caught him walking away from the truck. "Hey man," I said, even tone. 17's mine. He didn't stop. He flapped a hand over his shoulder like he was swatting a mosquito. Yeah, I'm just here for a minute." That minute stretched into 8 hours. The property manager, Sasha, sent one of those unhelpful community emails that say everything and nothing. Friendly reminder, assigned parking is for assigned residents. Please be courteous. I watched Trent read it in the mailroom, thumb flicking, smile widening. "Courteous," he said out loud to no one, and then took my spot again that night. I escalated to diplomacy with evidence. Photos with timestamps. A second note, firmer, not rude. A printout of the lease clause. Each unit is assigned 1 space. Violations subject to towing. The next morning I found my printout folded into an origami crane and stuffed into my mailbox with no stamp, which I had to admit was at least creative. Rainy Wednesday, I rolled in soaked and tired, and he was parked there again, nose right over the 17 like it was his signature. I idled at the curb, waiting, blinking through wiper blade time, while he hauled grocery bags up the stairs. "Trent." He looked down from the landing. "Bro. It's a rectangle painted on a rock." "It's my rectangle." "Then get here earlier." He smiled, the only kind of apology he believed in, and vanished through his door. I parked 3 streets over, trudged back under a short and personal storm cloud, and slept badly. The next morning, Sasha's response came, "We can't tow without a board vote. Please work it out neighbor to neighbor." Which, in practice, meant do nothing. By Friday, Trent had developed habits, late-night returns, early departures, an allergy to accountability. If I caught him, he'd toss me a 2 minutes and taper it out to half an evening. If I missed him, well, my rectangle had gone freelance. And then Sunday stormed in, literal thunder, gutters overflowing, and I watched our lot turn into a mirror. The building sat on a slight slope. Water ran toward my space and pooled there, because that's what it had always done. The old French drains had clogged years ago. Sasha called it a minor inconvenience. I called it an opportunity. Here's the thing Trent didn't know. I'm a civil engineer. Drainage is my day job. People hire me to move water around without anyone noticing. My helper brain started whispering, "Your lease doesn't say, 'Don't fix the problem.' It says, 'Maintain your assigned area in good condition.'" And the HOA bylaws, which I'd actually read because I'm that kind of boring, had a clause about owner-responsible maintenance of surface drainage structures with prior notice. If the lot flooded at 17, it was technically my problem, and also my permission. That night, while Trent's truck dreamed on my number, I drafted an email to Sasha and CC'd the HOA board. Professional tone, photos of the pooling, language like imminent slip hazard, and proposed corrective action. I attached a sketch, a narrow trench in my space, 6 inches wide, 20 inches deep, lined with filter fabric and gravel, a simple French drain replacement tying into the existing catch basin at the curb. Work to be performed during posted hours. Cones. Signs. Utility marking requested via 811. Compliance performed by a licensed engineer, me, with the city's minor work permit. I hit send. My rectangle had a plan. And because I'm petty in spreadsheets, I also scheduled the 811 call before you dig ticket for Wednesday at 7 a.m. Exactly the time Trent usually rolled in from the gym and treated my space like a valet stand. If he wanted the rectangle, he could have the outline, painted in blaze orange across the exact spot he liked to straddle. When the confirmation pinged my phone, I finally slept. Monday arrived with officialdom. A guy in a safety vest came and painted hieroglyphs across the asphalt. Blue for water, yellow for gas, red for electric. He kneels, he sprays, he leaves. The marks were beautiful to me. Permission written in color. Trent came down the stairs in a tank top, saw the stripes, and laughed like he'd discovered a street mural done just for his truck. "What's this, Banksy?" he asked. "Utility locates," I said. "Drainage repair. Work zone on Wednesday." He leaned against the railing. "In a parking space?" "In my parking space." He shrugged. "Looks open to me." He slid his keys between his fingers like brass knuckles and clicked the Tacoma open. That night he parked dead center on the orange X, wheels kissing the sprayed lines like it was a game of Twister. I took a picture. Paperwork is a revenge flavor no one respects until it wins. I pulled a minor work permit from the city website, paid the fee, printed the approval, and taped it to my window beside the required notice of work. I bought cones. I bought caution tape. I bought a big, ugly A-frame sign that said active excavation because subtlety had failed us months ago. Sasha replied to my email at 9:14 p.m. with administrative blandness. Per bylaws section 7.2, residents may undertake limited maintenance of drainage features with proper permits and notice to the board. Please ensure safety measures are observed. It was corporate for, if he eats asphalt, that's between you and gravity. I slid a final note under Trent's door, short and nearly polite. Drainage maintenance in Space 17 on Wed 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Please avoid. Unit 3B. Wednesday dawned gray and heavy. At 6:55, his truck was still camped on my number. At 6:58, I knocked on his door with my knuckles, 3 calm taps. He answered shirtless, bleary-eyed. "You're in my work area," I said, pointing at the taped permit on my window like a cop points at a badge. He rubbed his face. "Dude, I'll be out in a minute. You say that and an hour happens." 2 minutes. I waited on the curb with my coffee, watched him move with the urgency of a sleepy koala. At 7:22 he strode down, tossed me another airy chill, and drove off, straight over my cones, which I had placed while he was brushing his teeth because I am not above setting a stage. With the space finally empty, I got to work. I chalked my cut lines. I lifted the first tired paver like opening a scab. Underneath, the fossil of old gravel, clogged with dirt and leaves. I shoved a spade in. A neighbor with a dachshund paused to rubberneck. "You allowed to do that?" she asked. I pointed at the permit. "More allowed than him taking my spot." She grinned. "Carry on." By 9:30 I had a narrow trench running from the wheel stop to the curb cut, sloped like a quiet idea, fabric draped inside like a cradle. I left the final 2 feet open to show the inspector when he came. Work zones need drama. At 10:12, the universe sent me a gift. Trent's Tacoma rumbling onto the street, bass heavy, as if the truck itself had opinions. He swung wide, saw the cones and the A-frame, and slowed just enough for hope. Then he pinned the wheel and nosed in, gently, like he was easing into a bubble bath. I stepped out, palms up. It's closed. He cracked his window an inch. I'll be out in a minute. You keep using that minute like it means something. He grinned. What are you gonna do? Dig a hole? I looked him in the eye. Yes. He rolled the window up. He put the truck in park. He went upstairs. I stood there with my shovel in my hands and the kind of calm that feels like a new planet. I repositioned the A-frame so it sat squarely in front of his bumper. I widened the trench another 6 inches because I'm a generous person. I documented everything: time, date, positions of cones, angle of sun. When the inspector asks for a timeline, give him a timeline. At noon, Trent reappeared with a protein shake, saw the fresh excavation and the fabric, and laughed again, shorter this time. You're insane. I'm compliant. He turned away. Whatever. He left. The truck stayed. I kept digging. There's a moment in any project when a plan stops being an idea and turns into a thing that could swallow a front axle. For me, that was 1:07 p.m., when the trench reached 20 inches deep and the edges went from cute landscaping to OSHA would like a word. The fabric hung neat, the gravel stack weighted in bags like obedient bricks, and the open section by the curb looked like a letterbox for consequences. I set 2 more cones and a span of caution tape to create a little work corral. I spread a piece of plywood over the deepest section when I wasn't actively digging, because I'm not a monster. Every time I stepped away, I snapped another photo with my phone like I was a wedding photographer and the bride was liability coverage. At 1:30, Sasha drifted out in her cardigan, holding a clipboard like a talisman. How's it going? Textbook. I showed her the permit, the trench, the slope on the torpedo-level bubble like a tiny green thumbs up. She nodded. Trent says you're targeting him. I'm targeting gravity. She looked at the truck squatting across the line of cones like an indifferent cow. I can't make him move. I don't need him to move, I said. I just need time. She left, and time arrived in a neat white city sedan with an amber beacon. The inspector, a guy named Ruiz with a mustache and practical boots. He swung out, scanned the marks, the permit, the trench. You're tying into the existing catch? Yes, sir. Last 2 feet left open for view. He crouched, peered, nodded. Looks clean. Keep your barricades up. Backfill by Friday. Send photos of the finished installation. Will do. Ruiz signed the card and left. The moment he turned the corner, a new engine note rolled in. Trent again, back from wherever he goes to learn new ways to be a nuisance. He paused at the mouth of the lot, clocked Ruiz's taillights disappearing, and decided that meant the rules had left too. He lined up with my space like a plane to a runway. I waved both arms. Closed. He set his jaw, eased forward until the Tacoma's front tires kissed the plywood bridge over the trench. Plywood flexed. Caution tape bowed. There is always a fraction of a second where physics clears its throat. Stop, I said, louder. He smirked and gave the truck a little gas. The plywood coughed. The front wheel rolled, the board slid, and the tire dropped with an ugly wooden bark. The Tacoma's nose nodded down like it was praying. Trent's smirk died the way smirks do, abruptly and without dignity. He killed the engine. He opened the door and climbed out, trying very hard to look like he meant to step down that far. What did you do? I pointed at the permit, at the cones, at the canyon where his front tire now sunbathed. I dug a permitted, barricaded trench in a posted work zone during approved hours in my assigned space. That's a trap. It's drainage. He tried to lift the front with one arm like Hercules with a hangover. The Tacoma made a sound like laughter. He pulled out his phone and called a tow. The tow truck driver arrived, took one look, and shook his head. "Not without a release," he said. "Work zone. Liability. You got a release." I held up the permit. "I've got a permit and barricades. No release until the truck is clear of the trench." "Yeah," the driver said to Trent. "I can't hook in a live dig. You'll need to crib it, get boards, maybe a jack, and you're paying for the time." "Call the cops," Trent told me, as if that were a threat I hadn't already gift-wrapped for both of us. "Great idea," I said, and did exactly that. Officer Patel arrived with the calm of a man who has seen worse parking. He listened to both of us. He looked at the permit. He paced the cones. He peered into the trench and made a professional non-committal noise. "Sir," he told Trent, "this is a posted work area with city approval. It's not criminal. It's a civil matter between you and your choices." Then to me, "Make sure your barricades stay up. Don't leave it open after hours. Backfill by Friday," I said. He tipped his hat. "There you go." Trent sputtered. "So he can just dig holes?" Patel shrugged. "He can fix drainage in his space. You cannot drive into a barricaded hole." The tow driver, sensing daylight rates, began unrolling wood cribbing and muttering about winch angles. The neighbors gathered, Dachshund Lady, a couple from 2A, the retired teacher from 1C who always waters her plants like they've wronged her. Someone whispered, "He told him he'd dig a hole," and someone else whispered, "He did." By 3 p.m., Trent's truck was cribbed and lifted enough that the front tire could be guided up and out using 2x10s like skis. The driver earned every dollar. When the tire finally kissed asphalt again, Trent exhaled hard like he'd just escaped a submarine. The tow guy handed him a bill that looked like a down payment. Trent's face did math, then did anger, then did a quiet kind of fear that maybe he wasn't the main character of the universe after all. As the tow pulled away, I draped fresh fabric in the trench, poured the first bags of gravel, and tamped it with the rhythm of a metronome. Trent stood there, small in the big late afternoon light, and for once he didn't have anything clever to say. If this were a movie, Trent would learn, apologize, and bring over brownies. Real life prefers sequels. Thursday morning, a typed letter appeared on my door from the HOA board, clearly authored by someone who loves, whereas excavation poses hazards. Whereas neighbors expressed concern. Whereas a special meeting shall be convened. Sasha had signed it with a sympathetic face drawn in the margin, which I appreciated. By then, the drain was mostly done. Fabric tucked, pipe seated, gravel poured up to 6 inches below the paver grade. I left the inspection window open at the curb to show the tie-in. Cones still up. A-frame still scolding. My phone a gallery of compliance. Trent had found a new strategy. Weaponized grievance. He marched around the courtyard clutching a printout of the bylaws like a Gideon Bible. "Hazard," he announced to anyone fetching mail. "Trap. He's targeting me." "Then stop stepping in it," Dachshund Lady said without looking up from a crossword. At 10:40 a.m., Officer Patel returned, this time with a city code guy in tow. Trent had called. Again. They surveyed the scene like a jury. Patel, barricades are up. Code guy, permits valid. Tie-in looks good. Open excavation signage correct. Trent, triumphant. It's malicious. Code guy scratched his beard. What's malicious is the previous owner letting the drain clog for a decade. He turned to me. You'll backfill today? By end of day. Pavers tomorrow. Email photos. He gave me a card. He gave Trent nothing. Trent pivoted to Sasha, who had materialized with her cardigan and a look that said she was running out of adult energy. "You're the manager. Manage him." Sasha sighed. "I sent you both the same email. Don't park in 17. Don't drive into holes." He glared at me. "You think this is funny? I tamped gravel. I think water flows downhill." By late afternoon the trench was full of clean stone, the fabric folded pretty, the top dressed with sand like sugar on a custard. I set the pavers back in a herringbone pattern that had never looked so intentional. I rolled the plate compactor I'd rented and made the whole rectangle hum. When I peeled the cones back and parked my faithful Corolla, it felt like planting a flag. That night, thunder returned. Rain found the gutter in sheets. I put on a hoodie and watched from the stairwell window as the lot did its old trick. Water slid down the slope, reached my space, and vanished. No lake. No mirror. The new drain drank like a camel. Down by the curb, the catch basin burped once, satisfied. The rest of the lot, including Trent's favorite illegal overflow area by the hedge, turned into a kiddie pool. At 7:03 a.m., I came down to find Trent standing in flip-flops, staring at my dry space with the concentration of a man who never imagined physics could pick a side. His overflow puddle lapped his tires. He didn't look at me. "Trade spaces," he said. "No. I'll pay." I already did. I gestured to the neat seam of fresh pavers. "Also, you don't follow rules. I'm not upgrading your playground." He stepped closer. His voice went small. "You set me up." "I read the book," I said. "You didn't." HOA night arrived in a beige multi-purpose room that smelled like folding chairs and unseasoned chicken. The board took their places behind a table skirt. Sasha sat to one side, a little wilted. Residents gathered, rustling like a flock. Trent came with a stack of printouts and a certainty that the world would bend. He spoke first because of course he did. "This resident," he said, stabbing the air in my direction, "dug a hole to trap my vehicle. It's targeted harassment. It's unsafe. I demand he be sanctioned and his parking privileges suspended." The board president, an accountant named Miriam, blinked at him the way an owl blinks before swallowing. "Mr. Trent, did you park in the assigned space marked 17? Trent opened and closed his mouth. It was open. "That was not my question." He wilted. "Yes." Miriam turned to me. "Mr. 3B, did you obtain a permit and follow bylaws section 7.2 for drainage maintenance?" "Yes," I said, sliding the folder across. "Permit, 811 ticket, inspection sign-off from Ruiz, progress photos." The drain was failing, causing pooling and slip hazards. I remedied the condition within my assigned footprint. The board flipped pages. Paper whispered. Somewhere in the back, Dachshund Lady whispered, "Get him," to her dog. Miriam cleared her throat. "The board appreciates proactive maintenance. We also note multiple prior reminders about parking assignments." She looked at Trent. "Consider this your formal warning. Further violations will result in immediate towing authorization per section 4.3, recently amended to allow management discretion." Trent tried a last stand. "He humiliated me." Miriam folded her hands. "You humiliated yourself by driving into a posted hole." Laughter rippled, quick and mean. Sasha failed to be neutral for exactly 1 second and smiled. I thought the story would end there, with a dry parking spot, a working drain, and Trent learning to park where the numbers matched his lease. 3 blessed days, that's exactly what happened. He used his assigned spot. He scowled at me like I'd stolen his identity, but he stayed in his lane, literally. Then Sunday rolled around with sunshine and a barbecue smell from someone's balcony. I was carrying groceries, humming, when I spotted an orange Home Depot bucket sitting dead center in 17. Nestled inside, a passive-aggressive note on neon paper. Reserved for real residents. The community. The community had suspiciously Trent-like handwriting. I picked up the bucket and set it on the curb. I parked. I took a photo. I didn't rise to the bait. That night, my doorbell rang. Trent stood there, arms crossed, a new tactic perched on his tongue. "Look," he said. "This is getting stupid. Just let me use your spot on gym mornings. You're barely here before 8. No." He smiled like he'd expected that. "Then enjoy your little project." He stepped back, and only then did I notice the fresh smear of asphalt sealer striping the lot like someone had tried to repaint the numbers in the dark. My 17 was still crisp. The 19 across the aisle was now a wobbly 17. On Monday, a stranger's Prius was in my space, obediently parked on the fake number. The driver was a nurse from 2D, mortified when I explained. "He told me they renumbered," she said, eyes wide. "He even had a photo." Gaslighting, now with arts and crafts. I didn't fight with her. I parked in Visitor, sent Sasha a neat email with photos of the counterfeit stencil art, and CC'd Miriam because sunlight is the best disinfectant. By lunchtime the lot had fresh, official numbers sprayed by an actual contractor. 17 returned to my feet like a boomerang. Trent escalated sideways. He started parking half into my space, just enough that I couldn't swing in without brushing mirrors. He left his scooter angled across the line like a punctuation mark. He dragged his trash bin into my rectangle on pickup day so the truck would skip it. The kind of tiny vandalism that accumulates like lint. I stayed boring. I documented. I waved at cameras I'd installed, legal, visible, notified, pointed at the sign that said recording in progress because my petty spreadsheet had sprouted accessories. Tuesday night, the sky split open again. The lot puddled in all its usual places except 17, which glowed with smug dryness under the amber lamps. I watched from my window as Trent circled, looking for a loophole, then finally tucked his truck into his assigned slot with a huff big enough to fog glass. At 6:12 a.m., a crash yanked me awake. I threw on shoes and stepped onto the landing to see the aftermath. Trent's truck, parked crooked, his front door open, his trash bin toppled. A trail of black grit led from the hedge, where someone had hidden a pile of old asphalt chunks, to the center of my space. The chunks were arranged in a crude cairn. On top, the Home Depot bucket returned like a bad penny. I took one photo. 2. 10. Then I did something that felt like cheating. I didn't touch a thing. I texted Sasha. I emailed Miriam. I attached 30 images and wrote 2 calm sentences, obstruction placed in my assigned space overnight. Requesting action per section 4.3 and camera footage review. At 8 a.m., a tow truck with authorized by HOA on the door rolled in like a new era. The driver hopped out, checked a clipboard, and then, music to my tedious soul, hooked Trent's Tacoma where it sat across the line. The bucket shrine still stood in 17. The board had decided that the best time to teach was when the student was present and grumpy. Trent burst out of the stairwell in flip-flops and panic. "You can't tow me." The driver pointed with a grease-black thumb at the fresh sign Miriam had ordered installed the night before, assigned parking enforced 24/7. Violators towed at owner's expense. Section 4.3. Sasha appeared with a printed letter. "This is your second formal violation after written warning. You were informed last night of the renumbering corrections. You also obstructed another resident's space." He looked at me like I'd hacked the simulation. You did this. I read the book, I said again, because repetition is a kind of poetry. The tow took his truck on a short, humiliating trip to a lot 6 blocks away. He followed on foot, barefoot, anger slapping pavement, while the rest of us pretended to check our mail. That afternoon, the bucket shrine vanished. The asphalt chunks went back to wherever asphalt chunks retire. My space sat there, square and quiet, draining like it had goals. The next day Trent's girlfriend, who had the good sense to be embarrassed, knocked to apologize for him. She held a Tupperware of brownies like the universe was trying to fix its continuity error. Keep them, I said gently. Eat them yourself. She nodded, grateful, and did exactly that on the stairs. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept like a person who owned a rectangle of peace. Peace lasted exactly 6 days. Then the city resurfacing trucks arrived. Big orange beasts with rollers and tar, and the kind of competence that makes neighbors stand on porches with coffee like it's a parade. Sasha had warned us, lot closed Thursday through Saturday. Vehicles must be removed by 7 a.m. Notices taped to every door, emails, even texts. Predictably, Trent assumed warnings were for other people. At 7:05, the pavers rumbled in. At 7:07, Trent's Tacoma still lounged in his slot, smug as sin. The foreman shrugged, waved the roller forward, and painted a line of fresh asphalt up to but not under the truck. By noon, the lot was reborn. Black, smooth, gleaming, except for one crude rectangle of old gray where the Tacoma had squatted like a stubborn tooth. Neighbors whispered. Phones flashed. By the time Trent returned from wherever he ignored rules, the lot looked like a chessboard with one ugly piece. He stared at the pristine Black Sea and then at his lonely island. They skipped me, he barked, like it was a personal betrayal. They skipped the obstacle, Dachshund Lady corrected. Same thing. The HOA board was delighted. Miriam emailed everyone, per city regulations, unremoved vehicles forfeit right to uniform resurfacing. Future correction at owner expense. Translation: Trent could either live on his patch of shame or pay $5,000 for a private crew. For once, the numbers weren't painted, they were tattooed. Trent tried to out-stubborn the asphalt. For weeks, his Tacoma squatted on that mismatched patch like camouflage against humiliation. But the contrast was impossible to ignore. Everyone else parked on velvet, he parked on sandpaper. Neighbors started calling it the island. Kids chalked pirate flags on the seam. Someone taped a paper palm tree to his bumper. Meanwhile, my drain shone in city records. Miriam had filed my work as precedent. The board voted to mandate similar drainage fixes in every low spot. I was suddenly less petty engineer with a shovel, and more pilot project lead. Other residents asked for advice, measurements, even help sourcing gravel. Trent's tantrum had birthed policy. He hated that. You could see it in the way he slammed doors, in the way his girlfriend parked far away to avoid the island, in the way he avoided eye contact with everyone except me. He cornered me once by the mailboxes. You think you won. I think the water won, I said, flipping through coupons. His jaw worked like a machine chewing rocks. One day, man. One day you'll slip. Not in my space, I replied, because dryness is the best armor. The real twist came 2 months later. City inspectors, following up on the resurfacing, toured the lot. They admired the new drains, the uniform asphalt, and then stopped at Trent's Island. They poked, prodded, frowned. One pulled out a clipboard. Unmaintained section poses hazard. Water intrusion, cracking. Requires correction or penalty. Penalty meant fines. Daily. Miriam relayed it at the next meeting. not even hiding her smile. Mr. Trent must remediate within 30 days or face compounding charges. Trent sputtered. I didn't do anything. Exactly, Miriam said. That's the problem. The board offered him the same contractor as the rest of us, bulk discount long expired. He refused, convinced it was a trap. He tried a DIY fix with spray sealer. Rain laughed. The fines began to stack like Jenga. His girlfriend left. The Tacoma sat heavier each week, sagging on its own resentment. Neighbors started timing how long until the city padlocked his spot. Even Dachshund Lady kept score. By winter, Trent was a ghost. Rarely seen, always muttering. His patch turned into a pothole circus. Cracks, puddles, frost heave. The city ticketed him weekly. The HOA added penalties for non-compliance. Word spread that he was months behind on dues. The Tacoma, once smug, now looked abandoned, a monument to stubbornness. One morning, a flatbed arrived. Not a tow this time, repossession. The bank had claimed the truck. Neighbors watched through curtains as Trent stood barefoot in the frost, shouting into a phone no one answered. The flatbed took his last crown jewel away. When it was gone, the island looked even lonelier. That afternoon, Sasha taped a notice to his door. Eviction proceedings initiated. The final chapter wrote itself. Spring came, crews returned, and the city finally resurfaced the island after Trent's eviction. The lot lay uniform, smooth, drains sipping rain in quiet harmony. My 17 glowed with its crisp stencil, drier and prouder than ever. Neighbors still tell the story. The time a man thought rules were optional, only to be undone by physics, paperwork, and his own arrogance. Dachshund Lady sums it up best. He fell into a hole he dug for himself, only it was your shovel. As for me, I just park my Corolla, step onto dry pavement, and smile. Because sometimes the pettiest wars end with the most permanent victories, a rectangle of peace, and the knowledge that when push comes to shove, I will absolutely dig a hole.